Myself, Mahesh Kumar, Assistant Professor of Chemistry. Today, in the environmental sustainability, today we are going to discuss about the causes, effects, and preventive measures of air pollution. Causes, effects, and preventive measures are control measures of air pollution. Causes, effects, and preventive measures of air pollution. We are going to discuss in the environmental today's topic in environmental sustainability. Topics which we are going to discuss in this is definition. What is the definition of air pollution? First one is definition, and what are the causes of air pollution? What are the effects of air pollution, and how we are going to control measures of air pollution. Okay, before we are going to discuss this, what actually the air pollution is. What is pollution? Okay, what is a pollution? What is a pollutant? We need to know. Definition of pollution is any contaminant which causes adverse changes in the environment is called pollution. What is a pollution? Any contaminant which causes adverse changes in the environment is called pollution, and the contaminant is known as pollutant. The contaminant is known as pollutant. Any contaminant which causes adverse changes in the environment is called pollution, and the contaminant is called pollutant. Pollution can take the form of a chemical substance or energy such as noise, heat, light, etc. The pollution can take the form of chemical substances or the energy such as noise, heat, or light. Pollutants, the component of pollution can be either foreign substance or energy or naturally occurring contaminants. Pollution can take the form of chemical substances or energy such as noise, heat, and or light. The pollutants or the components of pollution can be either foreign substances or energy or naturally occurring contaminants. We can call it as a foreign substances or energies are naturally occurring contaminants. We call it as a pollution. Okay, it may be either in the form of chemical substances, or in the form of energy such as noise, heat, or light. Okay, we call it as a pollution or pollutants. The components of pollution can be pollutants are the components of pollution can be either foreign substances or naturally occurring contaminants. This is about the pollution. Okay. Now, what is the classification of pollution? Okay, pollution has been classified into four types. Here, one is air pollution, water pollution, soil or land pollution, noise pollution, or sound pollution. Okay, pollution has been classified into four types. One is air pollution, second one is water pollution, soil or land pollution, noise or sound pollution. It has been classified into four types: air pollution, water pollution, soil or land pollution, or noise or sound pollution. Okay, today we are going to discuss about the air pollution. What actually the air pollution is. Okay, here what is air pollution? Okay, air pollution is nothing but any contaminant which causes adverse changes in the air quality. Okay, any which causes adverse changes in the air quality is called air pollution, and the contaminant is called pollutant. Pollutants has been classified into two categories. One is primary pollutant or direct source. A point source is called primary pollutant, or secondary or non-point sources. Any contaminant which causes adverse changes in the air quality is called air pollution, and the contaminant is called pollutant. Here, pollutants has been classified into two categories. One is primary pollutant or point sources. Second one is secondary pollutant are non-point sources. Point sources and non-point sources. Pollutant is nothing but any changes, adverse changes that occur in the air quality. Okay, air quality is called air pollution. Adverse changes that occur in the air quality is called air pollutant, and the contaminant we call it as a pollutant. Pollutants has been classified into two categories. One is primary pollutant or direct pollutant. Directly can occur, that is a point sources, and secondary pollutant is nothing but non-point sources. Now we'll discuss what actually the primary pollutant, that is point sources, and secondary pollutant, non-point sources of the air pollution. Okay, air pollution is nothing but any adverse changes in the air quality is called air pollution, and the contaminant is called pollutant. Pollutants has been classified into two categories. One is a primary pollutant and second one is secondary pollutant. Now coming to what actually the primary pollutant is, what actually the secondary pollutant is. Pollutants that are emitted directly, okay, directly from the identifiable sources are produced by both natural events and human activities is called primary pollutant. Okay, these are the direct sources. Point sources are also we call it as a primary pollutant. These are the non-point sources. Non-point sources of the pollutant is called secondary pollutant. Here, pollutants that are emitted directly from the identifiable sources are produced by both natural events or human activities is called primary pollutants, and the pollutants produced by the in the atmosphere when certain chemical reactions takes place among the primary pollutants. Okay, due to the primary pollutants, the whatever the pollutants pollutants that are produced is nothing but secondary pollutants. Primary pollutants are called secondary pollutants. Here the point sources, one can see the pollution source with the naked eye. Point sources are nothing but the directly one can see the pollution from the human naked eye, but non-point sources one cannot see the pollution with the naked eye. It is formed after the singular series of reactions happen in the atmosphere. Here, point sources are directly we can see with our naked eye, but non-point sources we cannot see with our naked eye. It is formed after a singular series of reactions happen in the atmosphere. Here, example for the primary pollutant are point sources are dust storms, volcanic eruptions, emissions from vehicles and industries, etc. Here, secondary pollutant is sulfuric chemicals, due to some certain chemicals, whatever the pollution that occur in the atmosphere is something but non-point sources of the pollution. Okay, sulfuric acid, the formula for sulfuric acid is H2SO4, nitric acid HNO3, carbonic acid HCOO3, uh, and peroxyacetyl nitrate (PAN), etc. These are uh, non-point sources of the non-point sources of the air pollution. Okay, here pollutants has been classified into two types. One is point sources, and second one is non-point sources. Point sources are nothing but the pollutants that are emitted directly from the identifiable sources are produced by both natural events or human activities is called points, primary pollutants. It is produced by the atmosphere when certain chemical reactions takes place among the primary pollutants is called as secondary pollutant. This is a point sources. One can see the pollution source with the naked eye. It is non-point, so one cannot see the pollution source with the naked eye. It is formed after the singular series of chemical reactions that happen in the atmosphere. Here, example for the dust storms and volcanic eruptions, emissions from the vehicles, etc., industries, etc., are the examples for the primary pollutant. All other sources emit pollutants like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, sulfur trioxide, nitrous oxide, nitric oxide, nitrogen trioxide, NO2, N2O5, particulate matter, hydrocarbons, etc. All these are the examples that comes under the primary pollutants, that is direct point sources directly that we are going to identify from the natural events or human activities is called as primary pollutants, and it is occurred due to the primary pollutant with a series of chemical reaction takes place among the primary pollutants are nothing but the secondary pollutants. Secondary pollutants examples are sulfuric acid, nitric acid, carbonic acid, peroxyacetyl nitrate. All these are the examples for the secondary pollutants. And the primary pollutants example: dust storms, volcanic eruptions, emissions from the vehicles, industries, etc. All these are comes under the secondary pollutants of the air. Secondary examples: sulfuric acid, nitric acid, carbonic acid, peroxyacetyl nitrate, etc. They are comes under the secondary pollutants. Now, what are the causes of air pollution? What are the sources of air pollution? Okay, here the it has been classified into two types. One is natural sources, and the second one is man-made or anthropogenic sources. Sources of air pollution. Here there are two sources of air pollution are there: natural sources and man-made. Okay, the pollution that arises directly from the nature is called natural sources. Okay, the pollution that the cause that is directly from the nature itself is called as from nature itself is called as natural sources. Man-made. This is due to the by some then it is due to uh, it is done by some anthropogenic sources like man-made, which is done by it is made by the man itself. It's called as a from human being. Human being is nothing but man-made or anthropogenic sources. Examples for the natural sources of air pollution are volcanic eruptions, forest fires, pollen grains of the flowers, etc. are nothing but natural sources of air pollution. And the man-made sources are thermal power plants, burning of fossil fuels, chemical industries, etc. All these are comes under the man-made or anthropogenic sources of air pollution. Natural sources, man-made sources. Examples are volcanic eruption, forest fires, pollen grains of the flowers, etc. are the examples for the natural sources of air pollution. And thermal power plants, burning of fossil fuels, chemical industries, etc. This is comes means it is done by human being itself is nothing but secondary man-made or anthropogenic sources of air pollution. Now, coming to the effects of air pollution. What are the effects of air pollution? In the effects, it is either by human beings or on plants and on aquatic life. What are the pollution that can be occurred? Effects of air pollution. Here, effects on human beings. Effects of air pollution by human beings. Our respiratory system has a number of mechanisms. Our respiratory system has a number of mechanisms that help in protecting us from air pollution. Okay. Our respiratory system has a number of mechanisms helps in protecting us from the air pollution. The air in our nose filters as a filter out the large particles. Here in our nose, whatever the filters are present in the form of air, it will remove the whatever the dust particles, large particles from the outside that not to enter into the inside of the nose. Sticky mucus in lining of upper respiratory tract captures the small particles and dissolves some gaseous pollutants. When pollutants irritate the upper respiratory system, sneezing and coughing expel the contaminated air and mucus. Okay, here the effects on human beings, it is mainly on respiratory system. Respiratory system has a number of mechanisms that help in protecting us from the air pollution. The first example is take air in our nose has a filters out large particles that is from the outside from the air into the inside the nose. The sticky mucus in lining of upper respiratory tract captures the smaller particles and dissolves some gases pollutants. When pollutants irritate the upper respiratory tract, sneezing and coughing expels the contaminated air and mucus. Now, prolonged effects on human beings. Prolonged smoking or exposure to air pollutants can overload or break down these nasal defenses, causing or contributing the diseases such as lung cancer, asthma, chronic bronchitis, and emphysema. Prolonged continuous smoking or exposure to the air pollutant, what happens? Okay, what are the effects if you continuous smoke or continuous exposure to the air pollutants? Lead to the breakdown the national defenses, causing the contributing to diseases such as lung cancer. What happens? It leads to the lung cancer, asthma, and chronic bronchitis if you prolonged smoking and exposure to the air pollutant. Chronic bronchitis. All these are the uh, diseases that can occur due to the prolonged smoking or exposure to the air pollutant. One is lung cancer, next one is asthma, and next one is chronic bronchitis. Chronic bronchitis. Elderly people, infants, and pregnant women, and people with heart diseases, asthma, or other respiratory diseases are especially vulnerable to the air pollution. Okay, old people, infants, and pregnant women, and the people with heart diseases, asthma, or other respiratory diseases are especially vulnerable to the air pollution. Cigarette smoking is responsible for the greatest exposure to the carbon monoxide (CO). Okay, cigarette smoking is responsible for the greatest exposure to the carbon monoxide. Okay, continuous cigarette smoking is responsible for the greatest exposure to the what carbon monoxide. It is also one of the effect of air pollution on the human being. Effect of air pollution on human being. These are some of the effects on human beings, like prolonged smoking or exposure to the air pollutants can overload or break down these natural defenses, causing or contributing to diseases such as liver cancer, asthma, chronic bronchitis, and elderly people, infants, pregnant women, and the people with heart diseases, asthma, or other respiratory diseases are especially vulnerable to the air pollution. Cigarette smoking is responsible for the greatest exposure to the carbon monoxide. Now, exposure to the air containing even at 0.0.01 percentage of carbon monoxide for several hours. If you continuous exposure to the carbon monoxide, even 0.001% of carbon monoxide for several hours can cause a collapse, coma, and even death can arise. Okay, means how effect of this carbon monoxide on the human being. If you even it is the cases like 0.01% of carbon monoxide for several hours can cause the collapse, coma, and even also leads to the death. As a carbon monoxide, CO remains attached to the hemoglobin. Okay, CO always remains attached to the hemoglobin blood for a long time. It accumulates and reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. Okay, if you continuous exposure to carbon monoxide, what happens? It is directly attached to the hemoglobin in the blood for a long time. It accumulates and reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the blood. This impaired perception and thinking, slow reflexes, and causes headache. What happens? It leads to the uh, headache, and one is uh, drowsiness, dizziness, dizziness, and last one is nausea. All these are the some of the effects. If you continuous exposure to the carbon monoxide, leads to the headache, drowsiness, dizziness, and nausea. Carbon monoxide that is coming from the heavy traffic vehicles causes headache, drowsiness, and blurred vision. Okay, all these are some of the effects of air pollution on human beings. Effect of air pollution on human being. Uh, Sulfur dioxide, SO2, irritates the respiratory tissues. It irritates the respiratory tissues. Chronic exposure causes a condition similar to the bronchitis. Sulfur dioxide, SO2, is also leads to the respiratory issues. If you continuous exposure to this chronic exposure causes a condition called bronchitis. Again, leads to the bronchitis. It also reacts with water, oxygen, and other material in air to form sulfur-containing acids. Okay, now the sulfur dioxide reacts with H2O, leads with in the presence of oxygen and other material in the air. It forms sulfur-containing acids. Sulfur-containing acids. Acids can become attached to particles which, when inhaled, very corrosive to the lungs. Okay, what happens? These acids, whatever it forms when you inhale, it becomes enters into the uh, lungs and leads to the very corrosive to the human lungs. Now, uh, coming to the nitrogen effect of nitrogen on human beings. Effect of nitrogen oxides, especially NO2. Nitrogen oxide, especially NO2, can irritates SO2 can irritate the lungs, aggressive asthma or chronic bronchitis. Okay, NO2, especially in the form of nitrogen, can irritate the lungs, uh, aggravate the asthma, or it also leads to the chronic bronchitis. Chronic bronchitis and increase the susceptibility to respiratory infections such as influenza. Okay, it leads to the influenza or common colds. Common cold. Nitrogen oxide, especially NO2, also irritate the lungs or chronic bronchitis and increase the susceptibility to respiratory infections such as influenza or common cold. Suspended particle uh, aggravate bronchitis and asthma. Exposure to these particles over a long period damages to the lungs tissues and contributes to the development of chronic respiratory diseases and cancer. Okay, here suspended particles like aggravate bronchitis and asthma. Exposure to these particles over a long period damages lungs, tissues, and contribute to the development of chronic respiratory diseases and also leads to the cancer. Many volatile organic compounds such as benzene, formaldehyde, here benzene and formaldehyde, they are belongs to organic compounds, also have the effect on air pollution. Toxic particulates such as lead cadmium causes mutations, reproductive problems, or cancer. Okay, many volatile organic compounds such as benzene and formaldehyde and toxic particulates such as lead cadmium can cause mutations, reproductive problems, leads to the mutations, reproductive problems or cancer. Okay, inhaling ozone. Ozone is nothing but O3. Inhaling O3 as a component of photochemical smog causes coughing, chest pain, breathlessness, and irritation of eye, nose, and the throat. Inhaling ozone, a component of photochemical smog, causes coughing, chest pain, breathlessness, and irritation of eye, nose, and throat. All these are the effects of some of the air pollutants on the human Inhaling ozone, a component of photochemical smog, causes coughing. Okay, it leads to the coughing, chest pain, breathlessness, irritation of eye, irritation of the eye, nose, and throat. All these are some of the effects of organic compounds on the human being. On plants, what are the effects of air pollution on plants? When some gases pollutant enter leaf pores, okay, what happens? If when some gases pollutants enter the leaf pores, they damage the leaves of crop plants. When some gases pollutants enter the leaf pores, they causes the damage the leaves of crop plants. Chronic exposure of the leaves to air pollutant can break down the waxy coating that help to prevent the excessive water loss and lead to damage from diseases, pest, drought, and frost. Such exposure interferes with the photosynthesis and the plant growth, reduces the nutrient uptake, and causes leaves to turn yellow, brown, or drop off altogether. When some gases pollutants enter the leaf pores, they damage the leaves of the crop plants. When chronic exposure of the leaf to air pollutants can break down the waxy coating that helps preventive excess water loss. Okay, what happens when the continuous exposure of these air pollutants by the plants helps in the loss of waxy coating? Whatever the waxy coating that is present helps with the prevent of excessive water loss. It will be damage and leads to the damage from the diseases, pest, drought, and frost. Such exposure interferes with photosynthesis and the plant's growth, reduces nutrient uptake, and causes leaves to turn yellow. Okay, actually, it becomes the green color of plants become the yellow, brown, or drop off altogether. Okay, it is also one of the effect of air pollution on the plants. High concentration of sulfur dioxide, majority of flower buds become stiff and hard. Okay, when sulfur dioxide exposed to concentration increases in the atmosphere, majority of the what happens, majority of the majority of the flower buds become stiff and hard. They eventually fall from the plants and they are unable to flower. Okay, if continuous drop off from the plants takes place and unable to produce the flowers. Prolonged exposure to high levels of several air pollutants from smelters, coal burning power plants, and industrial units, as well as from cars, trucks, can damage trees and other plants. Prolonged exposure to the high levels of several air pollutants from smelters, coal burning power plants, and industrial units, as well as from cars, trucks, can damage trees and other plants. Okay, effects of air pollution on aquatic life. Effect of air pollution on aquatic life. Burning of fossil fuels creates carbon dioxide. Carbon oxides like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, sulfur oxide, and solid particulate matter. What happens if you burn the fossil fuels, like petrol, diesel, coal? Okay, it creates the formation of carbon oxides like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, sulfur oxide, solid particulate matter. Air pollutants like carbon dioxide mixing up with rainfall. Okay, when this carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide mixes with rainwater, observing the ocean water quality, it helps in increasing the acidity of the high acidity, means a low pH. Okay, observing the ocean water causing the high acidity of the water. Acidic nature of aquatic system cause damage due to the this air pollution. Phytoplankton, zooplankton species that are present and in the entire marine ecosystem gets damaged. Entire marine system gets damaged. This aquatic acidic nature of aquatic system causes the damage to phytoplankton, zooplankton, and the fishes that can present in the water. In entire marine ecosystem gets damaged due to this carbon dioxide mixing up with water, and this is responsible for the increasing the acidic quantity of the water, becomes the damage of phytoplankton, zooplanktons, fishes that are present, and the entire marine ecosystem gets undergo damage. Now, coming to the references of environmental sustainability, here we are following these two references. One is Robertson Margaret Sustainability Principles and Practices, Routledge Tyler, Francis Group 2017. Responsibility for teaching sustainability in the context, the Journal of Sustainable Education. These are the two references we are going to follow for the environmental sustainability. One is Robertson Margaret Sustainability Principles and Practices, Routledge Tyler and Francis Group 2017, and Responsibility for Teaching Sustainability in Context, Journal of Sustainable Education. Journal of Sustainable Education. These are the two references we are following for the environmental sustainability. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.